In Tomb 65 of Sector 22, during the November to December 2025 excavation at Oxyrhynchus, archaeologists found something that should not have been inside a mummy, a piece of Homer's Iliad resting on a dead man's abdomen. Not a spell, not a prayer, not a priestly formula, but a Greek war poem about ships sailing to Troy. For 1600 years, the body lay in the sand of Middle Egypt, carrying a fragment of a story that was already ancient when he died, and that is where the mystery begins. The city where this happened is now called Bahnasa, a small town about 190 kilometers south of Cairo, but in antiquity it was Oxyrhynchus, one of the great cities of Greco-Roman Egypt. Its name meant the sharp-nosed fish, its older Egyptian name was Permedjed, and for more than 1,000 years its cemeteries received bodies, prayers, amulets, and eventually, scraps of paper that outlived almost everything else. Oxyrhynchus matters because it was a city of words. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Bernard Grenfell and Arthur Hunt helped uncover roughly 500,000 papyrus fragments from its ancient rubbish heaps, including tax receipts, private letters, school exercises, Christian texts, lost plays, and copies of Greek literature, the paper life of a city preserved by dry sand. So at first, a piece of the Iliad in Oxyrhynchus sounds almost ordinary, because Homer was everywhere in the Greek-speaking world. The strange part is not that someone in Roman Egypt knew the poem. The strange part is that a passage from Book 2, the Catalogue of Ships, was placed with a mummy as part of the embalming process, turning literature into something closer to protection. That is the tension at the center of this discovery. Was the papyrus a reused scrap, a chosen charm, a symbol of status, or something stranger, a piece of cultural memory pressed directly against the body before the dead entered the next world? First, forget the clean museum version of the ancient world, because Oxyrhynchus was not preserved as a marble library, it was preserved as a dump. The richest archive of everyday Greco-Roman Egypt came from rubbish mounds, where thrown-away papyri survived because the climate was dry enough to stop them from rotting. That is why the city can feel so intimate. Its papyri do not only tell us what emperors ordered or what priests carved on temple walls, they show rent disputes, shopping lists, tax records, school lessons, petitions, jokes, prayers, and handwriting that still carries the pressure of a reed pen. After Alexander the Great took Egypt in 332 before the Common Era, Greek became deeply embedded in administration, education, and elite culture. After Cleopatra's defeat, Egypt became a Roman province in 30 before the Common Era. But the language of much public and private writing remained Greek, and in that world, Homer was not remote literature, he was a foundation text. The Iliad was copied, recited, studied, corrected, and used to teach grammar and style. Finding Homer at Oxyrhynchus is like finding Shakespeare in an English classroom, not rare by itself, but revealing because it tells you what educated people were expected to know. But the new find did not come from a rubbish mound, and that changes everything. The University of Barcelona's Oxyrhynchus Archaeological Mission, working with Egyptian authorities, found the mummy in Tomb 65 of Sector 22, in a Roman-era funerary complex with 3 limestone chambers, decorated wooden sarcophagi, and other mummies, some with gold leaf or geometric decoration. The campaign ran from November 2025 into February 2026, and the papyrus was later studied by specialists including conservator Margalita Munar, papyrologist Leah Massia, and classical philologist Ignacy Xavier Odiego. Their identification was startling because previous papyri found in similar mummy contexts were usually magical or ritual texts, folded, tied, sealed, and placed to protect the dead. This one was different. Researchers identified the Greek text as part of the Catalogue of Ships in Book 2 of the Iliad, the long roll call of Greek leaders and contingents who sailed against Troy, a passage that may sound dry to a modern reader, but in the ancient world it worked like a memory palace of names, places, ancestry, and collective identity. That detail matters, because the fragment was not from the duel between Achilles and Hector, not from the rage of Achilles, not from Priam begging for his son's body, but from a catalogue. It was a list, and lists have power in ancient cultures, because to name something is to hold it in memory, to order it, and sometimes, to protect it from disappearance. Still, the safest answer may be the least dramatic one. The papyrus could have been reused because it was available, valuable enough as writing material to survive, but not sacred in the way we might imagine a canonical book today. Ancient papyrus had a long life. A sheet could begin as literature, become scrap, be bundled with other materials, then enter a burial because the physical object, not just the meaning of the words, had taken on ritual use. Yet reuse does not make the find ordinary. If embalmers placed papyri on the chest or abdomen to help guard the dead, then even an old literary page could cross a boundary, from classroom text to funerary object, from memory of Troy to protection in Egypt. The tomb also contained a wider world of ritual signs. During the same season, the team reported 3 gold tongues and 1 copper tongue among the finds, part of a practice known from Greco-Roman Egyptian burials, where thin metal tongues could be placed with the dead so they might speak before Osiris in the afterlife. That image is unforgettable, because in the same necropolis, bodies were being prepared with artificial tongues and written texts, tools for speaking, remembering, and being recognized after death. One person might receive gold at the mouth, another might receive Greek writing over the body, and both gestures suggest a world where the afterlife was not silent, it had language at its center. The person with the Iliad papyrus is still partly unknown. Researchers have said the mummy was an adult male, but the study is ongoing, and that uncertainty is part of the story, because the dead man currently has no name, no biography, no clear profession, only the text that rested against him and the burial landscape around him. That absence forces the question into sharper focus. If he was educated, the poem may have signaled identity and status. If he was not, the papyrus may have been chosen by embalmers for reasons that had little to do with reading, and if the words mattered ritually, then the Catalogue of Ships may have become a kind of escort, a procession of names for a man crossing into another realm. What makes Oxyrhynchus so powerful is that none of these worlds cancel the others. Egyptian religion, Greek literature, Roman rule, local burial custom, private status, and practical reuse all existed at the same time, layered together in the body of one unknown man. The revelation is that the mummy did not hide a contradiction, it hid a map of Roman Egypt. For centuries, people have imagined ancient cultures as separate rooms, Egypt over here, Greece over there, Rome arriving later as a conquering power, but this tomb shows a more human reality, a society where identities overlapped in daily life and followed people into death. The Iliad fragment was not surprising because Homer reached Egypt, since Greek literature had circulated there for generations. It was surprising because a literary text entered the most intimate ritual space of all, the prepared body, and once it was placed on the abdomen, it stopped being only a text to be read. It became an object with a job. Maybe that job was protection, maybe status, maybe memory, maybe simple reuse transformed by ritual, but either way, the fragment tells us that writing could matter even when no living reader was present. That is why this discovery feels larger than a headline about Homer in a mummy. It reminds us that the ancient dead were not buried with clean labels, they were buried with mixtures, compromises, habits, and hopes, and sometimes the thing that survives is not the answer, but the exact place where several possible answers touch. The key takeaway is simple: a scrap of the Iliad on a mummy's abdomen is not just a strange archaeological detail, it is evidence of a world where literature, identity, and the afterlife could meet in the same burial. If this story pulled you in, the next one goes even deeper into the objects ancient people carried with them when they believed the journey was not over.